From the bizarre dances some birds perform to attract a mate to goats defying gravity, including others like the reindeer cyclone, a parasite that turns ants into zombies, and many more, these are 15 animal behaviors that are hard to explain. But before we start, subscribe now before I become famous. Number 15. Birds dance to attract a mate. Birds perform elaborate courtship dances to impress potential mates. These dances allow males to show off their strength, health, and desirable traits to females. Some common courtship dances seen in birds include lekking, in which males gather in groups called leks and compete to be chosen by females. The greater sage grouse performs one of the most spectacular lekking displays. On their breeding grounds called leks, male sage grouse puff out their chests to reveal bright yellow air sacs. They rapidly inflate and deflate these sacs while strutting and popping, creating sounds that can be heard up to 2 miles away. The male that performs the loudest and most vigorous display often wins the chance to mate with watching females. Other birds, like the red-capped manakin, perform acrobatic dances on branches. The male manakin moonwalks along the branch, smoothly gliding from side to side. He also makes loud snapping sounds with his wings to grab the female's attention. His bright red head and yellow thighs stand out against his black body plumage during the dance. Some of the most remarkable courtship dances come from birds of paradise. For example, the magnificent rifle bird fans his wings to frame his iridescent blue throat as he calls to prospective mates. He hops vigorously during his dance routine. The greater bird of paradise shuffles along branches while swinging his long, colorful feathers forward over his back. One of the most unique routines is performed by the western parodia. This bird spreads his feathers into a tutu shape and does a ballet-like side-to-side dance, waving his head at interested females. The choreography and plumage of these birds is unmatched in the avian world. Number 14. Crab molts from its shell. Crabs and other crustaceans have an exoskeleton, a hard external skeleton that protects their soft insides. This armor-like shell cannot stretch and expand as the crab grows, so periodically the crab has to climb out of it. Here's how it works. As the crab outgrows its too tight shell, its body begins absorbing calcium and secreting enzymes to separate the outer shell from the soft inner skin underneath. At the same time, the crab is secreting a new soft shell under the old one. Right before molting, the crab fills itself up with water or air to expand and crack open the old shell along specialized seam lines. Then, over the course of 15 minutes to several hours, the crab extracts itself from the old shell, pulling its body and limbs out through the openings. It's like when you peel a banana, except the banana is peeling itself. After molting, the crab's new shell starts out very soft, leaving the crab defenseless. The crab quickly begins absorbing water or air to expand the new shell to allow room for future growth. Within days to weeks, the new shell hardens and regains its protective capacity. Molting allows the crab not only to grow larger, but also to regenerate lost limbs and rid itself of parasites, barnacles, and damaged shell segments. Crabs can die if they get stuck in their old shell during molting, so having proper nutrition and habitat is critical. But for crabs, it's just another day in their life cycle. Number 13. Reindeer cyclone. This phenomenon, where a threatened herd of reindeer starts stampeding in circles, is one of the strangest defense mechanisms found in nature. As seen in aerial drone footage, a giant herd of reindeer can form a massive cyclone running swiftly in a circle with the young calves sheltered safely in the middle. This hypnotic display leaves predators like wolves and bears completely disoriented, unable to focus on picking off any single reindeer victim. The reindeer start their dizzying cyclonic stampede when they sense any kind of threat approaching. They instinctively move into the circular formation, always running counterclockwise, with the adult males on the outside protecting the perimeter and nursing mothers and fawns protected in the center. The entire herd moves as one in a spinning vortex. Running at speeds up to 50 miles per hour, this reindeer cyclone is a formidable sight. The reindeer herd can maintain the cyclone formation for several minutes until the threat is passed. Then they quickly disperse back into normal herd formation. This is an incredibly effective technique to confuse predators and defend the vulnerable young. Vikings trying to hunt reindeer in the snowy north were famously puzzled and thwarted by this phenomenon. Even with bows and arrows, they found it impossible to target a single reindeer from the swirling mass. It's simply astonishing to see a huge reindeer herd of more than 200 animals act with such synchronous purpose and smoothly execute this elaborate defense strategy. Number 12. Axolotl can grow back body parts. These adorable amphibians have the incredible ability to regrow entire lost limbs, organs, and even parts of their brains and spinal cords. Chop off an axolotl's leg and it'll grow back perfectly in just a matter of weeks. Remove part of its heart or brain, no problem. The axolotl will simply regenerate the missing tissue. It's like something out of science fiction. Scientists have found that the axolotl accomplishes these feats through a unique cellular process. When an axolotl loses a limb, nearby cells transform into a mass of stem cells at the injury site called blastema. This blastema can then become almost any type of cell needed to recreate the missing arm or leg. The new cells grow and multiply until an exact replica of the amputated limb is formed. Researchers have also discovered that axolotls have special molecular signaling that suppresses scarring and inflammation, which allows regeneration to take place instead of the scar tissue formation seen in human injuries. In contrast, when most animals are wounded, their natural response is to heal the injury by closing it off with scar tissue that blocks any regeneration. Being able to regrow arms, legs, hearts, and brains obviously provides an incredible survival advantage for the axolotl. He's truly a remarkable little creature. Number 11. Clownfish can change gender. If you've seen Finding Nemo, you probably think clownfish are these cute little orange and white striped fish that live in anemones. But there's something really weird going on that the movie doesn't show. In reality, all clownfish are born male, but they live in groups with a dominant breeding pair, one male and one female. If that female dies, the male will change genders to become the new female. Then the next largest male fish will take his place as the breeding male. Scientists call this sequential hermaphroditism. The male's testes basically dissolve while ovaries grow in their place, all governed by shifting hormone levels. This process can take weeks or even months to fully transform their reproductive organs. But get this, even before the gonads change, the brain starts shifting first. Studies show the area related to gonad function will double in size to match a typical female brain months before the actual full change. And when put with other females, the transitioning fish acts just like a female, despite still having mostly male gonads. Wild, right? It's thought they evolved this way to maximize breeding chances. Since clownfish never leave their anemone home, they have to partner up with whoever's available nearby. Switching from male to female lets them lay way more eggs. The anemone's tentacles protect the nest while both parents fan and care for the eggs until they hatch. Number 10. Octopuses eat their own arms. As highly intelligent creatures, octopuses rely on their 8 flexible limbs for critical tasks like catching prey, moving around, and even mating. So why would they start chewing off their own limbs? Scientists have discovered that octopuses exhibit a behavior called autophagy, essentially self-cannibalism. In captivity, octopuses mysteriously begin biting off and consuming their own arms, sometimes just one, but occasionally up to 3. This gruesome act almost always precedes their death within a day or two. Researchers have ruled out reasons like hunger or poor environmental conditions. Instead, unknown infections seem to trigger complex neurological and hormonal changes in octopuses. These changes likely cause the octopus brain to go haywire and initiate autophagy in a futile effort to stop the infection spread. Scientists have also found that female octopuses exhibit self-harming behaviors after mating due to hormonal fluctuations. The autophagy phenomenon has never occurred in wild octopuses, only those in captivity. Experts theorize that deteriorating tank conditions exacerbate neurological issues and accelerate the urge towards self-consumption. But the precise biological mechanisms behind why octopuses essentially self-destruct remains a scientific mystery. Number 9. Red crab migration. Every year, over 40 million red crabs migrate from the rainforests of Christmas Island to the coast to spawn in one of the most incredible animal migrations on Earth. What makes this migration so astounding and hard to explain? For starters, the timing of this epic journey is determined by 2 natural cycles, the phases of the moon and the first rainfall that signals the beginning of the wet season. It's amazing how these small-brained crabs can detect these environmental cues and all mobilize at the same time, halting traffic as they carpet the roads in a crimson tide. The male crabs lead the charge, arriving at the shore first to dig mating burrows before the females join them to do the dirty work. After just a few days of chaos, the males head back to the forest while the females stay behind to brood their eggs for 2 weeks. Here's where it gets even weirder. The female crabs somehow know to release their eggs into the ocean at the precise moment the tide begins to recede during the last quarter moon. Why this perfect timing? It maximizes the chances their offspring will survive. And the migration isn't over yet. The babies These that survive spend a month swirling in the ocean before emerging and marching 9 days back into the jungle. How these tiny crabs navigate their way through predators and obstacles to their ancestral forest home is mind-boggling. Number 8. Monarch butterfly migration. The annual migration of the monarch butterfly is truly a marvel of nature. Every year, millions of these delicate insects undertake an epic journey of up to 3,000 miles from their breeding grounds in the United States and Canada to overwintering sites in central Mexico. What makes this migration so astounding is that it's completed by a super generation of butterflies that lives 8 times longer than previous generations that emerged during the summer months. The butterflies that hatch in late August and September are biologically programmed to go into reproductive diapause, meaning they do not mate or lay eggs until the following spring. This allows them to conserve energy and survive the long migration south. Even more remarkably, the migrating butterflies find their way to the exact same Oyamel fir forests in Mexico that their great-great-grandparents used, even though they've never been there before. Scientists believe they may use a combination of the sun's position and the Earth's magnetic field to navigate, but how they reach the same destination remains largely a mystery. When the butterflies arrive in Mexico starting in November, up to tens of thousands may cluster together on a single tree for warmth. By clustering together, they're able to survive the winter at high elevations around 10,000 feet. In March, the overwintering butterflies begin the journey north again, breeding and laying eggs along the way. After 3 to 4 generations, a new supergeneration emerges in late summer to repeat the cycle. Number 7. This fish incubates its eggs in its mouth. The peculiar breeding behavior of certain species of fish where the male carries the eggs of his mate in his mouth until they hatch. Unlike most animal species, it's the male rather than the female who takes on the role of protecting and nurturing the vulnerable eggs. The male fish, often a jawfish or cardinal fish, attracts a female to lay her eggs inside his burrow. He then fertilizes the eggs and scoops up the clutch, sometimes up to 400 eggs, into his mouth. For days or even weeks, he diligently keeps the eggs safe, periodically spitting them out to aerate them and prevent fouling. All the while, he's unable to eat until the eggs finally hatch. This phenomenon, known as mouth brooding, places great evolutionary pressure on the male. Not only must he starve for a prolonged period, but his mouth remains constantly full, leaving him unable to feed or even properly breed. Any sudden movement risks him losing the entire clutch. Number 6. This parasite turns ants into zombies. This parasitic fungus infects carpenter ants, takes control of their minds and bodies, and turns them into zombies. Here's how it happens. The spores of this fungus land on an ant and penetrate its exoskeleton. The fungus spreads inside the ant's body, producing chemicals that affect its brain and alter its behavior. The infected ant leaves its nest in the forest canopy and climbs down to a low-lying leaf where it clamps its mandibles onto a vein in a so-called death grip. The fungus then kills the ant and continues growing, devouring the ant's tissues. Over the next few days, it sprouts from the ant's head and produces a stalk topped with spores. This precisely manipulates the ant to an ideal spot for the fungus to grow and transmit infectious spores onto new hosts on the forest floor below. This bizarre adaptation allows the fungus to spread effectively. The ant genuinely becomes a zombie as its brain is hijacked and its body controlled before finally being killed. The precision of the manipulation is astounding, always at dusk, always to a specific height on a plant, always biting a leaf vein. Seeing the fungus erupt from an ant's exploded skull is like a sci-fi horror movie. Number 5. This bird decorates their nests with colorful things. This strange behavior exhibited by male bowerbirds is related to their elaborate mating rituals. These birds build unique stick structures called bowers to attract female mates. The male bowerbird spends hours collecting colorful objects like flowers, berries, pebbles, shells, and even bits of plastic and glass discarded by humans. He arranges these trinkets artfully around his bower, creating what looks like a shrine or gallery to seduce visiting females. Some males even use charcoal and plant juices to paint the walls of their bowers. Each male has his own preferred decorating scheme, with colors tailored to appeal to females of his species. For example, satin bowerbirds favor bright blue objects. Researchers believe the quality and color coordination of the bower decorations help females assess the male's fitness as a mate. After constructing his bower masterpiece, the male performs elaborate courtship dances to entice females to mate with him. If the female enters the bower structure, it signals acceptance. Then the male and female mate briefly before she leaves to build her own simple nest and raise the chicks alone. The male bowerbird pours tremendous time and effort into building and decorating his bower year after year. This intense nest ornamentation behavior, solely dedicated to attracting mates, is highly unusual in the animal kingdom. The male's artistic drive to create an aesthetic display using colorful bower decorations is what makes this breeding behavior so peculiar. Number 4. This fish eats rocks and poops out sand. The parrotfish is a tropical fish that has one of the strangest diets in the animal kingdom. It eats rocks. Using its powerful beak-like jaws, the parrotfish is able to bite off and crush chunks of coral reef. It grinds up the calcium carbonate coral skeletons using teeth in its throat, extracting nutrients and excreting the rest as fine white sand. This is really bizarre behavior since coral is essentially as hard as rock, so you'd expect it to destroy the parrotfish's teeth. But amazingly, parrotfish have the hardest teeth of any fish. Their teeth are actually stronger than shark teeth, made of fluorapatite crystals arranged in a unique weave pattern that makes them incredibly tough and resistant to abrasion and fracture. The parrotfish isn't just destroying the reef for fun, its feeding habits are key to maintaining a healthy coral ecosystem. As it clears areas of coral, it opens up space for new coral to grow. The clouds of sand it poops out also accumulate to form tropical beaches and even entire islands. A single parrotfish can produce over 200 pounds of sand each year. While it might seem weird for a fish to crunch away on rocks and excrete fine sand, the parrotfish's unique adaptations allow it to thrive on this diet, and its critical role as a biorotor and sand manufacturer literally shapes tropical reef environments. The next time you're enjoying a beautiful white sand beach in Hawaii or the Caribbean, you may have millions of parrotfish to thank for that soft, sandy substratum beneath your feet. Number 3. This crab eats its own offspring. Red crabs are known to snack on its own recently hatched babies, in a behavior scientists call filial cannibalism. Each female crab can produce up to 100,000 eggs at a time. Though crabs are opportunistic feeders, it's strange for a parent to eat its own young. This cannibalistic urge goes against the hardwired biological drive to ensure the survival of one's offspring. The adult female crabs seem to opportunistically feed on their own larvae simply because they're easy prey. Research shows that female crabs who've recently carried eggs are a bit more restrained, eating only 25% of their own larvae, compared to 90% eaten by crabs who didn't recently spawn. This indicates an innate reluctance to consume their own progeny. However, female crabs get hungrier after prolonged starvation. Studies found that starving female crabs for 22 days caused them to eat 30% more of their own larvae, overriding their maternal instincts. Though eating their own offspring when hungry may help a female crab's short-term survival, it seems counterproductive from an evolutionary perspective. Still, with each female producing so many eggs, enough babies survive the cannibal gauntlet to maintain the population. While filial cannibalism helps the individual, it's a behavior scientists find weird and hard to explain from a species preservation standpoint. Number 2. This bird destroys trees. The behavior of woodpeckers relentlessly pecking away at trees is quite peculiar. These birds can drill up to 12,000 times per day using their strong beaks, hammering away at tree trunks and branches in search of insects to eat. While this persistent pecking may seem destructive, woodpeckers rarely do serious damage to healthy trees. Their pecking actually helps control tree-boring insect populations. However, they do prefer weak, dying trees, which makes their behavior appear more detrimental than it is. It's still astounding that they can peck thousands of times daily without getting headaches or concussions. Woodpeckers have shock-absorbing adaptations like spongy skull bones, short brains, and a hyoid bone that wraps around their skull for protection. This allows them to drill holes without injury. Number 1. Gravity does not exist for goats. Mountain goats possess an almost supernatural ability to traverse steep mountainsides and cling to sheer cliffs that leave human rock climbers in awe. These sure-footed beasts seem to defy gravity as they effortlessly scale precipitous slopes, thanks to a perfect combination of specialized hooves, powerful muscles, keen balance, and sheer nerve. A mountain goat's cloven hooves have rough pads with sharp outer edges that grip tiny footholds and provide traction on loose rock. The hooves spread apart to enhance balance and grip, almost acting like natural climbing shoes. Between the toes are dew claws, which provide extra leverage and balance. This gives their feet a firm grasp on the tiniest of ledges. They also have incredibly strong shoulders and neck muscles that allow them to literally pull their stocky bodies straight up a vertical rock face. They tuck their forelegs close to their chests and power upwards using their massive shoulders. Their low center of gravity keeps them anchored to the mountainside. These sure-footed acrobats Pilots constantly test their footing and plot their path before committing to a spot. They find imperfections in the rock to gain purchase with their specialized hooves. The combination of dexterous feet, ripped muscles, innate balance, and courage allow them to ascend cliffs so steep it seems gravity must not apply. By the way, did you know that this is whale vomit? It's only produced by 1 to 5% of sperm whales and costs $25,000 per pound. In 2021, a Thai fisherman found a piece valued at $1.2 million. It might seem crazy, but there are 8 animal liquids more expensive than this. If you want to see them, check out this video: 15 most expensive animal liquids in the world.